My name is Thessaly Arden. I'm a single mom. I thought I had seen the worst my family could do, but I hadn't. Not until that Monday night. The phone rang while I was cleaning up after dinner. My little brother's name popped up on the screen. I picked up, thinking he might say hi. But he didn't. Thessaly, listen. Lysander's 5th grade graduation party is going to be huge, he said. We booked the whole country club, a live band, everything. I smiled, thinking he would invite us. I thought maybe Anwen and I would get to go too. But then his voice got cold like ice. Just so we're clear, he said. You can come if you want, but Anwen? Leave her home. She's not important enough to be part of Lysander's big day. I froze. He said it like he was telling me the weather. My 12-year-old daughter, his niece, wasn't important enough. I heard myself ask, did you really just say that about my child? He laughed short and sharp. It's Lysander's moment. Don't make it weird. Click. The line went dead. I stood there, holding the phone, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might break. That was the exact second I knew someone was going to pay for those words. And it wasn't going to be my daughter. If you've ever had family treat you like you don't matter, you'll understand this feeling. You feel small, invisible, and like no one will ever see you. But before I continue, hit the subscribe button and tell me where are you watching this from, and what time of day is it? When the call ended, I just sat on the sofa staring at the black screen. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. Anwen walked in from the kitchen, earbuds dangling around her neck, carrying a glass of water. She was already tall for her age and very good at reading my face. She knew something was wrong. She set the glass down and sat beside me without asking a single question. I took a deep breath, trying to make the air go down my throat without breaking. It felt like dragging air through broken glass. Sweetheart, I said finally, Uncle Oren just called about Lysander's 5th grade graduation party. He doesn't want you there. Her eyes flicked to mine, then away. She nodded slowly, like she had been expecting something like this her whole life. Her fingers found my hoodie sleeve and twisted it so hard the fabric went white under her knuckles. I pulled out my phone and typed the shortest message I could manage. To Oren, we won't be coming. Sent. I barely had time to lock the screen before Mom's name lit up. I put it on speaker so I wouldn't have to repeat anything. Thessaly Marie Arden, she said, using my full name. That's how she always talks when she's mad. Oren says you're making a scene over a children's party. I closed my eyes. He told my daughter she isn't important enough to attend, Mom. That's the scene. Oh, please. He's excited. Lysander's the youngest grandchild. You know how your brother gets when it's about his kid. Don't turn this into World War II, she said. Anwen's grip tightened. I covered her hand with mine. I'm not turning anything into anything, I said, my voice flat. I'm keeping my daughter away from people who think she doesn't matter. Mom huffed. You were always the sensitive one. Let it go, Thessaly. For my family. She hung up before I could say anything. The family group chat exploded 30 seconds later. Zephyra was first, of course. Wow. Boycotting a 5th grade graduation party? Really mature, Thessaly. Lysander's been looking forward to this for months. Stop being petty. Zephyra, Lysander's mom, said. You decided Anwen shouldn't come. Don't rewrite history. I stared at the messages stacking up. He had already flipped the story. A cousin posted the eye-roll emoji. Someone else posted a picture of a toddler throwing a tantrum. Dad stayed quiet. His silence was louder than any text. Anwen read over my shoulder. They think I didn't want to go, she said in a small, broken voice. I turned the phone face down. They believe whatever is easiest, baby. She leaned into me, head against my arm. I don't even like country clubs, she whispered. But her shoulders were shaking anyway. I muted all notifications, turned the ringer off, and let the house be totally quiet. The kind of silence that presses against your ears and your chest at the same time. We stayed like that for a long time. She didn't cry out loud. She just breathed fast and shallow until she got tired. Eventually she whispered, Do they love Lysander more than me? I swallowed hard. Some people love loud, sweetheart. Doesn't make it real love. And it doesn't make you worth less. She didn't answer, just curled tighter against my side. I thought about every Christmas when Lysander got the bigger pile of gifts, because he was the baby. Every vacation where Oren changed plans last minute, and everyone shrugged. That was just Oren. Every time Mom said, You're the oldest, Thessaly. You understand. Like understanding meant swallowing whatever they threw at me. I was done swallowing. Anwen fell asleep, still holding my sleeve like it was a lifeline. I carried her to bed, tucked the blanket around her, and stood in the doorway longer than I should have. When I came back to the living room, The house was dark except for the streetlight cutting through the blinds. I picked up my phone again. One new voicemail from Mom. I deleted it without listening. The quiet wasn't heavy anymore. It was sharp. Clear. They had just taught my daughter where she ranked in this family. I was about to teach them where I ranked. A week went by faster than I expected. Thursday night, the doorbell rang while I was folding laundry. A courier in a navy blazer stood there holding a thick cream envelope sealed with gold wax. The country club's logo was in the corner. My name was printed in fancy raised letters. Ms. Thessaly Arden. Nothing else. No +1. I signed for it, closed the door, and left the envelope on the kitchen island like it might bite. Anwen walked in 5 minutes later, fresh from her shower, hair still damp. She spotted it immediately. "That's the invitation, right?" she asked, trying to sound curious instead of hopeful. I nodded. She picked it up, ran her thumb across the seal, then carefully opened it. The card inside was heavy, navy with gold letters. She read it once, twice, then set it down exactly where it was. "Just you," she said flatly, eyes on the marble counter. I stayed quiet. There was nothing to add. That night she barely ate dinner. Then she went to the couch with her phone and a blanket over her chin. I was loading the dishwasher when I heard her sharp inhale. "What is it?" I asked. She turned the screen toward me. Lysander had posted a full Instagram story. Slide 1. Lysander standing under the country club archway, wearing a navy blazer. Caption: Graduation weekend loading. Slide 2. Drone footage of the clubhouse at sunset, fairy lights twinkling. Slide 3. Close-up of the gift table, overflowing with boxes from stores, a shiny new laptop half unwrapped. Slide 4. Lysander and 6 friends in matching sunglasses, arms around each other. Caption: My people best squad ever. Slide 5. Callista's video of Lysander walking the practice screen while parents clapped. Caption: Our baby is all grown up so proud. Slide 6. Lysander holding a massive foil balloon shaped like a diploma. Caption: Class of 2030 future CEO. Anwen's thumb stopped on the last slide. Lysander grinning next to a life-size cardboard cutout of himself in a cap and gown. Caption: Thank you to everyone who made this the biggest day of my life. She lowered the phone slowly. "I guess I'm not part of it," she said softly. I reached for her shoulder, but she moved just enough to shift away. "Mom," she whispered, staring at the blank screen. What did I ever do to them? The question wasn't loud. It was small and broken, and it hit me like a fist to the chest. "Nothing," I said, my voice breaking. She shrugged slightly. "I'm almost 13. I know how this works. If you're not invited, it's because they don't want you there." Every comforting lie I had ever told her about family flashed through my mind and died. She walked to her room and closed the door softly. I stayed on the couch staring at the gold envelope, glowing under the kitchen light like a verdict. Hours later, I checked on her. She was asleep on top of her phone, still clutched in her hand. I gently took the phone, closed Instagram, and set it on her nightstand. I watched her breathe. The streetlight made sharp lines across her face. She looked 10 instead of 12. I thought about every time I had told her family always shows up. Every time I said cousins are your first best friends. Every time I promised that blood means you're never alone. All of it lies. I picked up the invitation again. Anwen's name wasn't on it. And that was the moment something inside me snapped. Not loud, not dramatic, just a clean, quiet break. I was done pretending this was okay. Saturday arrived, the day of the graduation party. I woke Anwen at 7. Swimsuits, sunscreen, goggles, and a cooler of snacks went into the car. I drove us 2 hours north to a giant indoor water park she had been asking about for months. We spent the whole day screaming down the tallest slides, racing in the wave pool, floating the lazy river, eating terrible nachos and soft-serve ice cream that melted faster than we could lick it, and laughing until our stomachs hurt and our voices went hoarse. For 9 hours straight, she was just a kid again. No phones, no invitations, no hurt feelings, no family drama, just water, sunshine through the glass roof, and the two of us. By late afternoon, we were pink, smelly from chlorine, and perfectly happy. She fell asleep against the passenger window before we even left the parking lot, hair still dripping, mouth slightly open, one hand loosely on her lap. It was almost 8:30 when we pulled into Mom's long driveway for the monthly family dinner nobody ever misses. The porch lights were very bright. Cars were parked on both sides of the street, shining under the lamps like little stars on the ground. Oren's brand new white Range Rover was sitting right in front of the house. It looked like it had been waiting there for a very long time, ready to show off. Its paint shined so brightly it almost hurt my eyes. I gently touched Anwen's shoulder. "Hey, Sleepy. We're here," I whispered. She slowly opened her eyes. She rubbed them with her little fists. Her hair was stuck to her cheek because she had been lying down for so long. "Do we have to stay long?" she asked quietly. "Just long enough to eat and be polite," I said softly. We walked in through the kitchen door. The kitchen door opened right into the dining room. The table was already full of people. Mom was standing at the head of the table, pouring gravy onto everyone's plates. Dad, Thayer, was at the other end of the table, carefully carving the roast chicken. Zephyra had picked the chair closest to the wine bottle. She was halfway through her third glass, smiling like nothing could stop her. Callista wore a shiny green silk dress that looked like it cost more than my house rent for a month. Lysander had his little graduation medal pinned crookedly to his blazer, and he kept fidgeting with it, like he was very proud. Oren sat in the middle of the table. His arms were stretched across the backs of 2 chairs. He grinned like he had just been crowned king of the universe. Every single person at the table turned their heads the moment we walked in. "Well, look who finally showed up," Mom called, waving a spoon dripping with gravy. "We saved you 2 spots right here." Anwen hesitated for a moment, staying half a step behind me. I squeezed her hand to reassure her. "Come on," I said. "We're just going to sit down." Lysander bounced in his seat with excitement. "Anwen, they gave me a real medal. Look." He wiggled it so everyone could see it glint in the lights. Zephyra smirked over her wine glass. "Yeah, where were you all day?" "The party was insane." Oren tilted his head and spoke with fake concern. "Thessaly said Anwen had a stomach bug. You look pretty energetic now." Anwen's hands went ice cold in mine. She clutched them tightly, trying to hide it. Mom slid 2 hot plates in front of us. "Sit. Eat. Lysander is the star today. Tell her about the Sunday bar." Lysander started talking so fast, it was hard to keep up. There were 20 toppings, confetti cannons, a professional photographer following me the whole afternoon, a drone flying overhead, and the principal even gave me a special shout-out. Anwen just stared at her mashed potatoes like they held the secrets of the universe. She didn't move a muscle. Callista leaned forward, smiling sweetly. "We really missed you girls. Big days are better when the whole family is together." Zephyra snorted loudly, probably loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "Some people just can't handle not being the center of attention for once," she said, clearly trying to make Anwen feel small. Dad cleared his throat. He had done it every morning for 30 years, but nobody even looked at him. It was like he was invisible at the table. Oren chuckled and added, "Come on, guys." Thessaly decided all the excitement would be too much for Anwen, right? He said it like it was a joke, a funny little punchline. The table laughed. Mom laughed. Zephyra laughed. Callista laughed. Even Dad cracked a small smile. Anwen's fork slipped from her fingers and clattered against the plate. Mom frowned. "You okay, honey?" she asked. Anwen's face turned bright red. She opened her mouth, but only a tiny broken sound came out. Lysander was still buzzing on leftover sugar and attention. "They had a photographer following me the whole time," he shouted. That was the last straw for Anwen. She shoved her chair back, so hard it screeched across the hardwood floor. She stood up, tears already in her eyes, and ran through the kitchen, past the fridge that was covered in 30 years of family photos. She didn't stop until she reached the side door and ran out onto the porch. The screen door slammed behind her with a loud bang like a gunshot. The dining room went completely silent. Zephyra rolled her eyes. "Drama queen," she muttered. Mom reached for the empty chair. "Thessaly," she said, worried. I stood up slowly. Every eye at the table was on me. Oren smirked into his wine glass. "Kids, huh? So sensitive." I looked around the table at every adult who had just watched my 12-year-old daughter run away in tears, and they were all laughing about it. Then I looked at Anwen's empty chair. The fork lying sideways in the mashed potatoes. Her untouched food is going cold. Something inside me snapped. They would never make her feel small again. I saw Anwen on the porch, curled up, hugging her knees, shaking as she cried. My hand was shaking, but my voice came out strong and steady. I took out my phone and called J.Tavian VC. I put it on speaker so the whole room could hear. It rang once. A calm, familiar voice answered. "Thessaly." "James," I said loudly and clearly. "The Series A with Oren Harrison. Stop it right now." There was a half-second of silence. James spoke calmly like always. "Reason." I locked eyes with Oren. His face had already lost all color, because he realized the founder just proved in front of our whole family that he thought my 12-year-old daughter was worthless. I will not put $5 million behind someone who treats my daughter like garbage, I said firmly. Oren's chair crashed backward as he shot to his feet. Thessaly, what are you doing? James didn't miss a beat. The termination letter goes out in 60 seconds. Let investor withdrawal. Irreconcilable conflict of values. Anything else? That's all, I said and ended the call. The dining room exploded. Oren lunged across the table, knocking over a water glass. Call him back right now, Callista screamed high and sharp. That money is Lysander's future. Zephyr's wine glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on Mom's hardwood floor. You're insane. Mom started sobbing into her napkin. Thessaly, please. He's your brother. Dad slammed both palms on the table, so hard that the plates jumped. Thessaly Arden. Get him back on the phone this instant. I didn't move an inch. For 2 years, I had been the anonymous lead investor in Oren's business. No one knew my name was behind it. I had kept it secret so that no one could say Oren got a free ride just because he was family. I was scheduled to sign the term sheet next Thursday. Oren made a strangled sound. You're lying. Check your inbox, I said calmly. James just blind copied me on the termination. 4 investors have already replied in the last 45 seconds. Callista collapsed back into her chair, her strings cut, as if someone had just taken all the energy out of her. Lysander stood in the doorway, confused, medals still pinned crookedly on his blazer. Dad and Oren stared at me in panic. You kept this secret for 2 years just to pull the rug out, Oren said, his voice breaking. Yes, I said calmly. I kept it secret so you could earn it on merit. Tonight, you proved you never deserved a single cent. Zephyr's voice cracked. This is financial murder over a graduation party. No, I said calm and steady. This is the consequence for telling my daughter she doesn't belong. Mom reached for me, tears streaming down her cheeks. Thessaly, call him back. Fix everything, please. I looked at the woman who raised me and felt nothing but ice. You had the chance to fix this the second she ran out crying. You laughed with him instead. Oren dropped to his knees right there on Mom's dining room floor, between the roast chicken and the gravy boat. Thessaly, I'm begging you, he said, his voice breaking on the last word. I looked down at my little brother on his knees in front of everyone who had spent their lives telling me to let him win. I waited. He couldn't even glance toward the porch where Anwin sat. That was all the answer I needed. I took 1 step back from the table. Oren's voice turned raw. You're killing everything I've built. No, Oren, I said perfectly calmly. You killed this family the moment you decided my daughter wasn't important enough for your son's big day. I turned and walked out of the dining room. I passed the shattered glass and the spilled wine. I passed every wide-eyed face that suddenly realized the price of choosing sides. I found Anwin exactly where I knew she'd be, curled on the top porch step, arms wrapped around her knees, crying so hard her whole body shook. I sat down and pulled her into my lap like she was still small enough to carry. I held her while the shouting started inside. Oren's voice, Mom sobbing, Zephyr screaming my name. Anwin whispered against my neck, her voice tiny and cracked. Did you really just do that? I kissed the top of her wet hair. Yes, baby. And I would do it again 1,000 times. The porch light flickered overhead, casting long shadows across the front yard. Inside, someone started pounding on the screen door, calling my name. I didn't turn around. 2 days later, my phone started blowing up. I was making coffee when the first notification hit. Then another. Then a flood. 47 missed calls, 23 voicemails, hundreds of texts, all from the same 4 people. The subject line of the newest email stopped me cold. From James Tavian, subject. Official termination, Harrison Technologies Series A. I opened it. It said, after careful consideration and in direct response to the lead investor's withdrawal, Apex Ventures is formally terminating the Series A term sheet with Harrison Technologies effective immediately. Primary reason: serious concerns regarding founder character and alignment with core family values of the partnership. Below it was a chain of forwarded replies from every other investor on the cap table. Out. Pulling my commitment. Regretfully withdrawing. Effective immediately. We are out, one by one like dominoes. The phone rang again. Callista's name appeared. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later it rang again. Then Zephyra. A wall of text appeared. Do you have any idea what you've done? Oren hasn't slept in 48 hours. His entire company is collapsing because of your temper tantrum. You're proud of yourself destroying your own brother over a stupid party? I hope you rot. Another message, same thread. Zephyra and Lysander asked why Aunt Thessaly hates him. How do you explain that to an 11-year-old? I set the phone face down on the counter. Anwen walked in, still in pajamas, hair messy from sleep. She saw my face and stopped. Is it them? She asked quietly. I nodded. She climbed onto the stool beside me, pulled my phone over, and started scrolling through the notifications with the calm curiosity only kids can manage. Another FaceTime from Mom popped up. Anwen watched it ring out. Callista called again, then Oren, then Mom again. Anwen looked up at me. Her eyes were wide, but she was calm and steady. I could see she was really paying attention. They're really mad, huh? I asked quietly, trying to sound casual. I tried to manage a small laugh, but it didn't feel like laughing at all. My throat felt tight. Yeah, really mad, she said simply, without looking away from me. She kept scrolling on her phone for a while, her small fingers moving quickly over the screen. Then she stopped on a message from Zephyra about Lysander. I watched her face change. Something hardened behind her eyes. It was like she had just grown a little taller in her mind, like she had learned something big in one moment. She put her phone down carefully, reached over, and placed her small hand gently on my shoulder. Mom, she said softly, but with a voice that was sure and firm, you did the right thing. I stared at her, amazed. It was the first time she had ever said something like that. She didn't ask me, are you sure? Or will they forgive us? She didn't ask me what would happen next. She just said those 6 words, spoken with certainty, like she already knew more about standing up for herself and understanding what is fair than most grown-ups ever do. My eyes filled with tears so fast I couldn't stop them. The tears ran down my cheeks and onto my shirt, but I didn't care. Anwen climbed onto my lap like she used to when she was little. She wrapped her small arms around my neck and let me cry into her hair. I could feel her heart beating through her chest, calm and steady, and somehow that made me feel safe. Her phone kept buzzing on the kitchen counter, loud and angry, like a hornet trapped in a jar, but I didn't move. I just held her. When I could finally breathe again, I whispered softly, "Thank you, baby." She pulled back just a little to look at me, her wet eyes shining. "I'm not a baby anymore," she said, half smiling, still wet-eyed. "And I'm not sorry." We left. Just then the phone rang again. It was Oren, calling for the 10th time in just 20 minutes. Anwen reached over and pressed decline, without even thinking. Then she turned off the ringer completely. The sudden silence felt like a soft blanket after a long, cold day. It was the first real peace we had had in weeks. We sat there together at the kitchen island. Our coffee went cold as we sat quietly. All the buzzing notifications, the angry messages from family, were finally muted. It felt like the rest of them were screaming into a space that no longer included us, and it was peaceful. For the first time in a long time, it was quiet, calm, and safe. Then, on Wednesday afternoon, the doorbell rang over and over. I was at the kitchen island, finishing payroll for my work, when the first set of rings came. 3 quick rings, then 3 more, then a long press like someone had planted their palm on the button and refused to let go. Anwen looked up from her laptop at the dining table. "Who is that?" she asked. I already knew. I walked to the front door and opened it just a little, enough to see without letting them in. There was Oren and Callista, standing on our porch. They looked like they had been through a storm. Oren's shirt was untucked and wrinkled. His eyes were red and puffy. Stubble covered half of his face. Callista's hair was in a messy knot. Her mascara was smudged, leaving dark rings under her eyes. She didn't have her usual fancy clothes or perfect makeup. They both looked exhausted, scared, and desperate. Oren tried to step forward. I didn't move. "Thessaly," he said, his voice rough and raw. "We need to talk. Please." Callista's hands were clenched so tightly her knuckles were white. 5 minutes, she said. "That's all. Anwen's doing homework 10 feet away." Oren swallowed hard. "We know. We just were desperate," he said. Callista's voice cracked. "The company is gone. Investors pulled out within hours. Employees are already leaving. We're going to lose the house. Lysander's school, everything." Oren's eyes filled with tears. "We're on the edge of bankruptcy. Please call James. Tell him it was a family fight that got out of hand. Tell him anything. We'll sign whatever you want. We'll say whatever you need us to say. Just save the company." I studied them for a long moment. Neither of them had asked about Anwen. Neither of them had said her name even once. They were begging for help with money, but they weren't thinking about the little girl who had been hurt. I spoke quietly, my voice calm and low. "Where's your apology to my daughter?" Callista blinked, confused. What? You heard me, I said. You came to my door begging for $5 million, but neither of you has asked about the 12-year-old in the next room. The one who cried herself to sleep because her uncle told her she wasn't important enough to attend his son's graduation party. Oren opened his mouth to speak, then closed it. He tried again. Nothing came out. Callista tried. Thessaly, this is bigger than... No, I interrupted. It's exactly that small. It's about a little girl who learned from her own family that she comes last. Oren's knees gave out. He dropped to the welcome mat, hands clasped in front of him, like a child asking for mercy. I'm begging you, he whispered, tears spilling down his face. For Lysander. For our family. Please. Save us. Callista knelt beside him, sobbing openly. We'll lose everything we worked for. Please, Thessaly. I looked down at my brother crying on the porch, and I felt nothing. Not anger, not pity, nothing at all. I leaned forward just enough for them to hear me clearly. Lysander's future is not my daughter's responsibility, I said, my voice calm but cold. And neither is yours. Oren looked up at me with wild eyes. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious in my life, I said. Callista clutched his arm. Thessaly. I stepped back inside. Oren tried to stand. Wait. I closed the door softly, calmly. No slam. Just the quiet click of the lock sliding into place. Through the peephole, I watched them stay on the porch for another full minute. Oren is still on his knees. Callista holding his shoulders. Both crying into the afternoon sun. Then they walked back to their car, heads down. They got in and drove away. I turned the deadbolt. I blocked every phone number that belonged to them. I removed them from every family chat, every shared photo album, every emergency contact list. I changed the gate code. From that day forward, Oren and Callista simply didn't exist in our world anymore. Anwen never asked about them again, and they never once tried to reach her. Not a text. Not a birthday card. Not a single word. 8 months later, everything had changed. Oren's company officially shut down in February. The big house in the gated community went into foreclosure 3 weeks later. They sold it for less than they owed and moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment 20 minutes away. Lysander had to switch from his private school to the local public middle school. No more summer camps at country clubs. No more designer backpacks. The monthly family dinners stopped existing. Mom tried to organize one in April, and then again in June. Nobody showed up except Zephra, and even she left early. Mom still called every few weeks. I let most calls go to voicemail. When I did pick up, the conversations were short, polite, and empty. She never mentioned Oren or Callista by name anymore. She just asked about the weather and Anwen's grades, then hung up like she was afraid to say the wrong thing. Zephra sent one last mean text on Lysander's 12th birthday, blaming me for him not getting the gaming laptop he wanted. I blocked her number that same day. Dad never called at all. Anwen grew 3 inches over the summer. She made the honor roll. She joined the debate team. She started volunteering at the animal shelter every Saturday. She never once asked about her uncle, her aunt, or her cousin. Their names simply stopped coming up. One October evening, we were eating takeout on the back patio. Anwen looked up from her phone and said out of the blue, "I'm glad we don't have to pretend anymore." I set my fork down. Pretend what? That they actually cared, she said. It's easier when people show you who they really are. You don't waste time hoping they'll change. I stared at her. 13 years old and already wiser than half the adults I knew. You okay with how everything turned out? I asked. She shrugged, took a bite of fried rice, and said, I have you. That's enough family for me. I felt my eyes sting, but I smiled anyway. Later that night, I walked past her room and saw her pinning a new photo to the corkboard above her desk. It was a picture of me and her at the water park from the day of the party. Both sunburned and laughing, arms around each other. No one else was in the picture. And that was perfectly fine. I never heard from Oren or Callista again. Not a text. Not an email. Not even a holiday card. They vanished from our lives like they had never existed. Some people think I went too far. Some people think I should have found a way to forgive them. I don't lose sleep over it. I sleep just fine knowing my daughter will never again sit at a table where people laugh while she cries. I sleep just fine knowing she is growing up understanding that love isn't just a word people throw around when they want something. And I sleep just fine knowing that some doors have to slam shut forever so the right ones can finally open. Anwen is happy. She is strong. She knows her worth. And that is worth more than any $5 million, any family dinner, or any fake apology that never came. I never regretted a single second. Some doors close so better ones can open.